Welcome to Sask Organics webinar on the Introduction to Certified Organic Production and Record Keeping. With this video, we're going to cover general principles, what's involved in the certification process, the considerations and benefits of transitioning to certified organic production, what the implications are with regards to production and management, what's involved with records and record keeping, what the options are with regards to transitioning, support and self-education, a particularly important part, and some parting thoughts on the whole subject. With regards to certified organic production, there are some general principles. It is a system with national standards that mandate a harmonious relationship with natural systems. It is a process that is designed to ensure compliance with standards regarding acceptable and unacceptable production and processing practices and materials. It is a system with required verifications and anticipated integrity. It is a system with a guarantee of production practices to the end consumer and a means of tracing products. It is a system which is a practical and viable alternative to conventional agricultural practices. National organic standards are specific for each type of production. There are certain ones for field crops, livestock, fruits and vegetables, etc., and also for processing and packaging. The standards and permitted substances lists are available on the national websites as shown there. It would be a good idea if you're considering transitioning to organic that you take a look at those to know exactly what you're facing in terms of what is and is not acceptable. The standards all fall under the Canadian organic regime known as CORE, and certified products will show the Canada Organic Seal as shown on the right-hand side of the screen. The national standards are reviewed and revised every 5 years with industry involvement. Certification bodies are the agencies that are required to verify operations are in compliance with the National Organic Standard by managing and reviewing their files, arranging annual inspections, and issuing organic certificates. Certification bodies charge for their services with a variety of fees depending on the certification body. Each certification body must provide approval of any inputs prior to their use. And to ensure that all certification bodies themselves are compliant in their operations, the certification bodies receive regular review and accreditation, a process which is overseen by CFIA, the Canadian Food Inspection Agency. With regards to the certification process, it is important to keep comprehensive records regarding field activities and other practices, including the use of inputs, sales and transport records, storage units, animal care, and sales. Certification process requires an annual visit by a verification officer, VO, or inspector from an accredited certification body who will review records and production areas, sales records, as well as storage units and animal housing and processing facilities. A producer must go through a pre-certification year immediately prior to the year of certification. The pre-certification year ensures that the operator thoroughly understands the certification process and the organic standards, which results in better compliance in that first year of certification. The national standards dictate that a crop is certifiable if it is produced on land which has not received a prohibited product, for example, fertilizer or chemicals, within the 36 months prior to harvest of the certified crop. So there are typically 2 years when crops are grown organically, but are not certifiable and therefore not saleable as organic. This is known as the transition period. With field crops, the certification process has some exceptions. Transition can be reduced if land has been in untreated forage or grazing land or abandoned. An assigned affidavit is required for those purposes, or it perhaps has already been under organic certification in prior years. The length of time required before the land can be certified will be confirmed by the certification body. The other exception is that a transition can actually be increased from 3 years to 4 years if land has received a prohibited product in fall prior to transitioning. For example, desiccation, fall applied fertilizer, or fall burn off of weeds. So to reiterate with regards to the field crop certification process, the first column indicates that any land that's been in forage or abandoned or in certification for at least 2 years prior has only one pre-certification year and then leads directly to the first year of certification. The regular situation probably is the one in the middle column where land has been in conventional production without the application or prohibited product, i.e. desiccation or burn off, in the fall of year 0. So year 1 shows organic production, pre-certification year, and then the third year is the first year in which you're allowed to sell crops organically, having been certified. The third column shows land in which has been in conventional production, but an application of prohibited product has been done in the fall prior to starting organic production. So in that case, you would require 1 year, 2 years of organic production. Then the third year would be its per certification year, and the year following, year 4, would be the first year of certification. So what can you expect in certified organic production? What are the considerations? Well, first of all, you are probably never going to see a perfectly weed-free field again. It is without doubt there will be weeds of some sort, even in the best organic production. Peer pressure can be a factor, and I think this is quite an important one. If you're the kind of person who doesn't like people talking about your fields, talking on Coffee Row and so forth, it may be a factor for your getting into organic production. Also, there is significant record keeping to be done in certified organic production, and that can be a stumbling block for some people. And lastly, you have to be prepared to educate yourself in the process because there's a lot of stuff out there available, easily available for education purposes. Production output will be reduced. Some production costs will go up because seeding rates are typically higher and organic seed costs are higher. Otherwise, costs are typically lower. One of those reasons is because there are fewer external inputs. Fewer are permitted, and often they are not used. However, you may need to invest in different or additional equipment. The results can be that you have higher net returns per acre. In other words, there might be fewer acres necessary to be viable. Crop prices are typically higher than conventional, up to 2 times the value of conventional prices. And there is a great community of supportive and knowledgeable producers, association, and researchers available, should you choose to reach out to them. And of course, there's a reduction of exposure to chemicals for you and your family. Organic seed is a first priority. It's expected that you search for organic seed where possible and only afterwards seek an exemption to use non-organic seed. Many producers keep their own seed as permitted, depending on the variety, but it's not a requirement. Genetically modified organisms and plants are prohibited. Salt-based fertilizers and most chemical sprays, including desiccants, are also not permitted. Some biological fertilizers and soil amendments are available and permitted. However, they must always be pre-approved by your CB before application. And there is certainly less dial-up information available. There are not going to be a series of companies you can call to ask what you should be doing with a particular problem. Weeds are likely to be the greatest ongoing challenge. Rotations are exceedingly important for inhibiting disease, pests, and weeds. And soil fertility is acquired mainly through the introduction of leguminous crops, green manures, cover crops, permitted amendments, animal manure, or animal presence on the land. There is a requirement for a buffer zone next to all conventionally operated land. It can be tilled or planted to annual or perennial crop for forage or harvest, but anything taken from that buffer is not certifiable. The same crop can be planted in the buffer zone as long as the buffer crop is harvested and directed out of the organic stream, and that such activity is documented. Any equipment used to harvest or forage buffer zone is subject to clean out and flushing before use on organic productions. And the buffer zone can include roadways, ditches, and shelter belts. The windows of opportunity for some operations can be more limited. For example, a post-emergent harrowing in a wet spring, is shown on the right-hand side in the photograph. Pre-working and delayed seeding may be used to allow for weed growth. You are likely to see some increased, perhaps selective tillage. And severe noxious weed infestation may require extensive tillage and selective chemical weed control, but if the latter, it will require removal from that plot from organic production for 3 years after the chemical application. There are likely to be some years of green fallow, legume plowdowns, annual or perennial forage or cover crops. Some equipment may be the same, some different. For example, on the right-hand side, you're seeing inter-row cultivation, something one doesn't see typically in conventional production. And below, a roller crimper is being used on a green manure crop. Some alternative techniques include pre-working in advance of seeding, pre-emergent harrowing, post-emergent in-crop tillage, in-crop weed clipping, inter-row cultivation, and roller crimping. And you can include the use of off-farm animal manures and off-farm animals. Now for livestock, it is not necessary to certify livestock even if the land is certified. Marketing is a great challenge in Saskatchewan with farm gate and direct sales, farmers market, online sales, but the opportunities are fewer for larger off-farm sales. It may be necessary to finish animals oneself or work with a facility that is willing to implement organic processing practices and undergo an inspection to meet organic requirements. The premium over conventional price is much less than with crops. 25% over conventional is considered good. With livestock production, there are no growth hormones permitted. Vaccinations can be used, although it does require permission. Antibiotic usage means that a treated animal need not be isolated from the herd, but it is no longer organic and must be sold as conventional. There are requirements for outdoor access, sufficient space, and accommodating natural behaviors. Records are to be kept on individual livestock for those which can be tagged. Buffers are required on pasture land and hayland that are located next to chemically treated land, cultivated or otherwise, that is not considered to be organic. Organic feed is required for the 3rd trimester of pregnant animals and entirely for animals destined for slaughter. Organic feed is not required for bulls, rams, boars. In fact, they can be fed buffer strip forage. There are organic feed exemptions up to 25% that can be made in extreme situations, such as the availability of feed in a drought year. With regards to fruits and vegetables, production implications suggest that the general principles of organic apply to vegetable and fruit production as well. Specific requirements will differ from the type of crops, and there are specific production requirements relating to greenhouse or container production, maple products, mushrooms, sprouts and microgreens, and wild harvesting. Hydroponic and aeroponic productions are prohibited. Records and record keeping. The accurate and complete records are essential to certification. There are detailed records that have to be maintained and they need to be updated regularly. Records can be kept on paper or digitally, that's your choice. The exact forms will differ from certification body to certification body. There will have to be an organic system plan, and this includes a detailed description for all the transition of land, annual cropping ideas, use of inputs, amendments, water, manure, and also required are field and plot maps, which include the acreage and location of buffer strips, and as well field and plot histories, probably a minimum of 3 to 5 years, depending on the certification body's requirement. There is a seed search that's required to identify where you have searched for seed and what the results of that search were. In addition, there is a requirement for a non-GMO affidavit that is signed by the product supplier indicating that the product that they supplied to you is non-GMO and that has not been treated with a prohibited product. In terms of field histories, it requires 3 to 5 years of history, including the plot numbers as associated acreage, and must even include things such as yard and non-productive land listed. Field maps are required annually, and they are essential to indicate the land location, the field layouts and acreages, and indicating any buffer zones. They may be amended from year to year as field configurations change. Storage records are essential. They're essential from tracing product from field to sale. They include at minimum the date, the source, product type, destination, and a running balance. Bills of lading are required to assist in traceability of a product. So anything shipped out must have a bill of lading that includes the product, the quantity, and a lot number, and they must be sequentially numbered. The lot number is specific to each farm, but it must be unique to each shipment and must be consistent with each sale. In summary, with regards to records and record keeping, it includes field maps, storage records, bills of lading, sales log, a cleanout log involving cleanout of equipment, a complaint log in case you've had complaints about any of your products, documentation regarding the approval of external inputs. During annual inspections, there are, of course, site field visits, critically important to visit the fields that are in question. The inspector will review storage and handling facilities for both the condition of them and the cleanliness. They will review records to ensure their accuracy. They will trace a sample product backwards from the records. They will go from the sale to the storage to the field to ensure the records are complete. And they will record all usage of the land. In other words, what crops were grown on what area. Now, in terms of transitioning options, there are 2 ways to go, basically. One, you can make the decision to go all at once, cold turkey, as we're calling it here. The benefits of that is all the land is certifiable sooner, so you capture the organic premium sooner. The downside is you have a lot to learn in a short period of time, and potentially there is more risk. Now, if you go the gradual way, where land is put into organic production in a phased manner, the benefit of that may be that it's less scary to have all the eggs not all in one basket. And the cons are that you have longer term time in dealing with co-production, where you're dealing with both organic production and non-organic production, which can be referred to as potential for co-mingling. Transitioning considerations. It is required to move all land into organic production within a number of years unless the organic operation is under separate management. Gradual transition may ease concern about cash flow. On the other hand, co-production for a longer period of time does create ongoing challenges with storage and machinery, cleanouts, and the potential for mistakes in storage. There is no price premium during the transition period, as crops must be sold into the conventional market. With regards to support and self-education, the first place most people go is organic farmers. They can be reached individually, and there are some certification bodies that involve organic farmers in groups, and they are accessible, of course. The provincial organic organizations, Sask Organic, Organic Alberta, Manitoba Organic Alliance, and other member-based organizations or chapters. There are, of course, sympathetic researchers and provincial specialists, and some marketers have in-house agrologists that may be available. Clearly, there's a lot of stuff available through websites, videos, publications, Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram. And seminars, webinars, workshops, field days, conferences, and trade shows are available for those who are interested. And it is well worth for people to take those in and on an ongoing basis, because learning just doesn't take place during transition, but at an ongoing basis as an organic producer. In terms of parting thoughts, there are a number of considerations to make before choosing to organics. Transitioning to organics is a learning curve, and organic production comes with its own set of challenges. However, organic production can be a rewarding and sustainable production method. You need to educate yourself and determine if this is the right choice for you and your operation. Thank you for listening, and if you want to get in touch with us, our contact information is as below.